Historic Preservation Board meeting, December 16th, 2015, 5:30 p.m., Sanford City Hall, City Commission Room.
Ready? Okay. Let's bring to order the regular scheduled meeting for December 16th, 2015. Let's take a roll call, please.
Anna Yaba.
Present.
Hank Deekhouse.
Here.
Cheryl Deming.
Here.
Ian Carfagno.
Here.
Tammy Anini.
Here.
Okay, we can review the minutes, please, from past meeting. We have two to review, the workshop and the regular meeting minutes. And if anyone wants to make a motion, please make a motion on both.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Would that be both minutes?
Yes.
A motion
I'll second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion's passed. I'd like to let everyone know that applicants are advised that if for any reason they are not satisfied with the outcome of tonight's meeting, they may file an appeal with the City Commission. Staff can help you with that process. Also, a building permit may be required for any certificate of appropriateness approved this evening. It is the applicant's responsibility to inquire with the building department as to whether or not a permit is required for the approved certificate of appropriateness. And we'll begin with PM1.
Are you ready for the background?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. The project is located at 300 East 2nd Street in the Downtown Commercial Historic District. In February 2015, the applicant received approval from the Historic Preservation Board to install 2 garage doors in the existing garage bays, a 7-foot by 8-foot wall on the north side of the building to conceal the side yard between the 2 buildings, and an 18-foot 6-inch by 25-foot stuccoed canopy on the south side of the building to match the finish of the building walls. The applicant has submitted a building permit revision in order to accommodate handicap-accessible restrooms, which will not fit into the existing addition. For this reason, the applicant is requesting approval to demolish the addition on the north side of the building, which is approximately 35 square feet, and replace with a new addition that's approximately 98 square feet. Schedule S states that any and all additions to stuccoed structures shall be of stucco to match the existing in color, composition, and texture. And staff's comments are the proposed new addition will be similar in design to the existing addition and will be stuccoed and painted to match the main building. Staff is recommending that the HPB grant approval to demolish the addition on the north side of the building and replace with the new addition at 300 East 2nd Street based on the finding that the proposed change is consistent with the purpose and intent of Schedule S. And in your packets, you have a Figure 1 that points out the area that we're talking about. This addition that was constructed on the building in the past is not original to the building, and it housed restrooms, but it was not nearly large enough to accommodate the handicap restrooms that they need for the business that's going in there. So it's really the only location that they can put it. They're designing the addition to match it pretty much exactly, except for it's going to be larger in square footage.
This is the brewery?
Correct.
Right across
That'll
the
be the Intercompass Brewing Company.
Is the applicant here? Can you introduce yourself and your address for the record, please?
Okay, my name is James Giuliani with Landmark Building Construction, and this is for 300 East 2nd Street.
First, is there anything you wanted to add to her
No.
synopsis?
No.
Okay. questions for this gentleman? Any questions on this?
No. I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I move to approve the request to demolish an addition on the north side of the building, approximately 35 square feet, and replace with a new addition approximately 98 square feet at 300 East 2nd Street, based on the finding that the proposed alteration is consistent with the purpose and intent of Schedule S and complies with the design guidelines in Schedule S as outlined in the above staff report. Specifically, the proposed addition will not adversely impact the architectural style of the building or the surrounding historic district.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone in the audience want to discuss this? No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, motion
Okay.
passes. All right.
Thank you.
Let's move on to PM2, request to obtain certificate of appropriateness to approve alterations completed on the exterior of the building at 310 South Palmetto Avenue. Can you read the background, please, Steph?
The project is located at 310 South Palmetto Avenue in the Old Sanford Residential Historic District. The building was constructed in 1910. The applicant purchased the property in October 2015 and has undertaken repairs and alterations without a certificate of appropriateness. On November 17, 2015, staff visited the site to review the work and determine if the C of A would be granted administratively. Staff determined that the completed work would require approval by the Historic Preservation Board per Schedule S, Section 8.0C, City of Sanford Land Development Regulations. The work completed includes installation of vinyl shutters on the east elevation and replacement of porch flooring with deck boards. Staff's comments are as follows. The installed shutters are vinyl and do not match the corresponding window openings. Their shapes, material proportions, and design are not in character with the style of the building. The replacement flooring is wood, but is not tongue and groove and does not match the original porch flooring in size or shape. Staff is recommending the HPB deny the request for a certificate of appropriateness for alterations completed on the exterior of the building at 310 South Palmetto Avenue, based on a finding that the proposed changes are not consistent with the purpose and intent of Schedule S. Specifically, the alterations are not in character with the architectural style and are not consistent with the design, materials, and dimension of the building's original architecture.
Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Hi. Gonna introduce yourself and your address for the
Sure.
Record, please.
Scott Mason, 110 West Indiana Avenue, DeLand.
Okay. Scott, is there anything you'd like to add to that background description of it?
The only thing, I mean, I understand the vinyl versus wood. I mean, the physical appearance obviously makes it look a lot better than, what it was before. But I understand if they need to be sized a little bit differently and put the wood up instead of the vinyl, so I'm okay with that. The porch there was a tongue and groove requested because that's what was there prior. The 201 address on 10th Street that I also did, I replaced that with tongue and groove. But the problem with the tongue and groove is that it retains a lot of water. So you have to drill holes in certain areas, which kind of, it makes it just look a little bit architecturally, when you go up on the porch, unless you don't drill the holes, it retains water. So I just decided to do this porch over here, which it looks a lot better. I understand the tongue and groove replacement, but quite honestly, this porch looks a lot better than the tongue and groove, and the water just drains right straight through. So I guess my request is to approve what I replaced it with. It's wood. It is the same size and shape. It's just not tongue and groove.
Chairman?
Yes.
I just want to make clear that this application is to retain the alterations that have been completed. The applicant has not submitted to consider wood shutters, so if consideration of wood shutters is to be done by the board tonight, we need to somehow amend the application.
No. You can't amend it.
Because you're here to review what
Right.
was submitted.
Right, of
So
course.
we don't have a request for wood shutters at
Thank
this time.
Okay.
The wood shutters could be administratively approved. Is that right?
I would not administratively approve, no.
No wood shutters?
I would put that to the board
Oh.
based on the architectural style and what was there historically.
Did it have wood shutters before?
Not to my knowledge,
When you purchased the property, there were no shutters
No.
on the?
no. But if you zoom out, I mean, it gives it a better appearance on the exterior. It's just a preference, but to me, when we put the wood shutters up, you take them, you remove them, it just becomes a little bit more generic. I mean, I've got no problem doing whatever the board decides. It just, to me,
Right.
physically, architecturally, it just looks better.
Anyone have any questions for the? Okay, so you understand why you're here, right?
I do.
Okay. As much as I value opinions on the way things look, unfortunately, that's, not how things work in the historic district. I mean, an opinion is great, but if the S code states that, you can't have vinyl shutters, then,
I understand.
as much as they may, make the building visually look
Well, I mean,
appealing.
I'll replace them and size them appropriately with wood. I mean,
Right. Well, what will have to happen is
yeah.
you're in front of us here to get approved what you've already done. So we'll either approve or deny that,
That's fine.
and then if, based on that outcome, if you wanted to come before the board and say, I'll put wood shutters on, you'll have to create a C of A and come in front of us to request the approval for wood
So
shutters.
we're not gonna make that request now. We're gonna do that next month.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't amend that's, just a verbal
Okay.
amendment can't work that way. And then, obviously, the boards on the floor are required tongue and groove, regardless of,
Even though
retaining water.
50% of all the historic houses down there have been replaced. I mean, I understand the code. I've read the code. I understand the code.
then you understand why we're here. I mean,
I
that's the whole
understand
reason
why
why
we're here.
we're even here is the code.
Right. Yeah, I
So,
understand.
Before I make a motion, can I ask the lawyer a question? Are we not allowed to make amendments to anything? Or are we? I seem to recall in the past many years I've been on the board that we had made amendments if the applicant requests amendments to their applications.
You make amendments or the applicant make amendments?
If the applicant requests us to make an amendment, I thought we were allowed to do that. We've done it in the
No,
past.
you have done it in the past. The problem with doing that now, though, is that the public has the right to speak on every item that has a decision, that the decision's being made upon. If there's no agenda of that item, how does the public know what to come to speak on? That's the problem. That was a recent law change. There has been oral amendments in the past. I wouldn't recommend doing it. You have the power to do it, but I wouldn't recommend doing it because you could have somebody come in and say, well, I thought this was the only thing being considered. I would have come to the meeting if I would have known there was another issue before the
Well,
meeting.
isn't the agenda's talking about shutters? Whether we approve or disapprove shutters? I mean,
Be sure.
but not shutters in general.
The only
I'm
thing
asking
that's
the
been
lawyer.
completed is the wood floor, right?
What
No,
is
the
on the
shutters
agenda is a request to approve alterations completed. The agenda does not state shutters. Additionally, if you amend it verbally, the applicant has not submitted an application form, which means they haven't provided the required submittal documents. In order to make a request for wood shutters, they would have to measure the windows, have the dimensions, submit for what manufacturer they're going to do for the shutters, and also provide you the hardware, which you don't have any of that in front of you. So I would caution making a decision on something where you have no information to review.
Right, the application itself just says porch.
okay. All right, then I'd like to make a motion. I move to deny the request to obtain a C of A.
Okay.
What?
No, it's fine. You can make a motion, but continue your motion. Go ahead.
I Move to deny the request to obtain a certificate of appropriateness for alterations completed on the exterior of the building at 310 South Palmetto Avenue based on the finding that the proposed scope of work was not consistent with the purpose and intent of Schedule S and does not comply with the design guidelines in Schedule S.
We have a motion. We have a second.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there anyone, before we decide, anyone else who would like to speak on this issue in the audience?
For the record, my name is Linda Kuhn, and I reside at 313 Palmetto, directly across the street. I understand that Mr. Mason is now saying that he understands the rules, but I live across the street from this house. And what he does is he comes in on the weekends. I watched him put the porch in on the weekend. He understands the rules, but he doesn't want to comply. Now, I understand you're denying this, and the porch will come at a later date? Is that what you're asking?
What's in front of us is the replacing approving the vinyl shutters, which is work that was done, and the work on the floor.
You're approving the vinyl shutters?
No, either we will be approving or denying these.
Okay.
Yeah, the motion set forth is to deny both items for the vinyl and the replacing of the wood floor on the porch.
Okay, and I also have a...
Go ahead. The only motion was about the floor, because that's the only thing before you.
No, the shutters are too.
The shutters
But the shutters are on the art form.
If you look at the PM1, Lonnie.
PM2.
Oh, PM2, I'm sorry. Yeah.
He's looking at the C of A. It doesn't mention shutters. That's what he's going to go by.
You got me going now. We're on PM2. Okay. The only application I have is porch, so I guess there's two applications. Sorry.
Okay, so your pending motion is to deny the existing shutters that are up right now, which are not consistent with the architectural integrity of the home. And we're also talking about the porch.
The wood floor replacement, the porch
And
replacing
you're
the floor.
going to deny the porch.
That's the motion.
The motion,
Well, that's
the
what
motion is to deny, correct?
Okay. I have a question to Mr. Groot, please, if I could ask him a question on the record.
Please.
If it is denied, and obviously then he is required to remove the work that he has done, correct?
This board doesn't require him to, but he would be in violation of the code, and he could be brought before a code enforcement procedure.
Okay, well, so there is further action that can be taken. I have another legal question that I'd like to ask you. Is there anything statutorily or in our municipal code that addresses how a owner is allowed to pull a permit? Do you have to be homesteaded? Does it have to be owner occupied? Or can an absentee investor pull a permit?
It's all regulated by the Florida Building Code, and that requires an owner to apply for the permit or provide an agent for the owner to apply for the permit.
Okay.
Be a contractor or
But I'm asking you, do you know there is criteria for you to pull an owner permit?
Oh, sure.
In other words, that you don't just do it even though you may own the home, but it's not homesteaded or it's not owner occupied. In other words, are you required to have a licensed contractor do work?
under most conditions, but you can have an owner accomplish work done under certain circumstances.
Okay. I was just curious because he has two homes and he's pulling permits as the owner of the homes. And I was just curious if there was a statutorily obligation of a criteria that has to be owner occupied or homesteaded. Okay.
But an owner has to pull the permit. Sometimes an owner can do the work themselves too.
Correct.
Can act as their own contractor, yeah.
Okay. Well, I wasn't certain, and I just
Right.
wanted to get clarification because it was brought up during some discussions. So that I highly object to how he has conducted himself. He has his staff come in on the weekends. The porch was put in on a weekend. He's saying to you that he is aware of the rules, yet he has blatantly violated them and continued to do so. He's been red tagged. He continues to work. I have no faith that even though he's standing here in front of you, that he's going to change any of it. But that's my personal opinion. The houses are for sale. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mary. For thirding the motion to deny. The houses are for sale. I'm an investor. I'm trying to make improvements into the community. Yes, my workers come in on the weekends, but they also come in during the week, all week long, at all hours. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter. We're here to deny or approve what we have in front of us. So, do you want me to just stay up here for 201 10th, or?
I think, was there anyone else in the audience who wanted to speak before we vote on that motion? Okay, then all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Fortunately, that motion does not pass.
Okay, that's fine.
Motion. Okay, so PM3 is requesting to obtain a certificate of appropriateness to approve alterations completed on the exterior of the building at 201 East 10th Street. And staff, please read the background on that.
Chairman, I'm not sure if I heard you correctly on the last one. Can you just repeat the outcome of your decision?
The outcome is, okay. The motion to deny was unanimous.
Okay, so they were denying
Denied,
retention of
correct.
the changes already.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay. The project is located at 201 East 10th Street in the Old Sanford Residential Historic District. The Seminole County Property Appraiser lists the year of construction as 1910. The applicant purchased the property in October 2015 and has undertaken repairs and alterations without a certificate of appropriateness. On November 17, 2015, staff visited the site to review the work and determine if a C of A could be granted administratively. Staff determined that the completed work would require approval by the Historic Preservation Board per Schedule S, Section 8.0C, City of Sanford Land Development Regulations. The work completed is listed below. And what we've got is on the south elevation, removal of a back door, installation of a new fiberglass door, removal of 2 windows, installation of a 2-foot by 2-foot salvage wood window, and installation of new aluminum siding. East elevation, removal of a window, installation of a 2-foot by 2-foot salvage wood window, and installation of new aluminum siding. On the north elevation, removal of existing spindles on the porch and installation of new porch spindles. Staff has added sections of Schedule S, page S29, S33, S34, and S31. Staff's comments are, the existing nonconforming aluminum siding was removed on the south and east side of the building, limited to the 1-story section. New aluminum siding was installed after the windows and door were replaced. Staff has verified that the original wood siding is intact beneath the 2-story section of the building. The wood siding material, profile, dimension, and style should have been replicated for the 1-story section. 2 small windows on the south elevation were removed. The 1929 Sanborn fire insurance map reflects that this area originally functioned as a porch, therefore these windows were not original. 1 single window on the south elevation was aluminum and was also not original to the building. However, the dimension and orientation of this window opening is consistent with other original windows on the building. The new window installed on this elevation is size 2-foot by 2-foot and is a salvaged window. Florida Building Code does not allow for a salvaged window to be installed in a new opening, and therefore a building permit may not be issued for this item. For this reason, the applicant has proposed removing this recently installed 2-foot by 2-foot window and installing a new Pella A series casement window, which is figure 5, sized at 2-foot by 2-foot. The door on the south elevation was removed. The 1929 Sanborn fire insurance map reflects that this area originally functioned as a porch, and therefore the door was not original. However, the dimension and orientation, I'm sorry, I have something from the last one. Schedule S requires new doors to be appropriate to the style and period of the structure. The fiberglass door is not consistent with the time period of the structure. For this reason, the applicant has proposed removing this recently installed fiberglass door and replacing it with a new wood door. Figure 6 reflects the applicant's proposed choice of doors labeled A, B, and C. And those are ranked in order of what the applicant would prefer, A being most preferred. And on September 8, 2015, staff issued administrative approval to repair, replace wood porch spindles were missing. New porch spindles must be wood and must match in dimension, profile, texture, and other visual qualities. The existing porch spindles were completely removed and replaced with new spindles. And I did not put a motion in this one. What I've got for the recommendation is the Historic Preservation Board must determine if it is appropriate to grant approval for alterations completed on the exterior of the building at 201 East 10th Street. If the Historic Preservation Board determines the work is not consistent with the purpose and intent of Schedule S, the board will take action to enforce the requirements of Section 80H violations.
First, anything you'd like to add? This is going to be a tough one.
I mean, I've already went over what needs to be replaced by her recommendations, and we've identified to replace the windows based on engineering requirements and what the building permit will approve. The door was put on by my previous contractor. We've already identified a wood door that we can replace. The only thing, the siding that was damaged prior to taking the windows off was replaced by new siding, and if I replace what I put on there, which is the original, I mean, I read the code and I understand that I have to get approval for, you know, when I remove it, to replace it with an original wood siding. That's what she had told me. If I take what's off there now, what we took off, which was a couple panels, and I replace that with wood, the consistency of it on the exterior is going to look horrible. You're going to have partial wood, partial vinyl, and I understand that the code says, you know, the objective is in the long term is to make the entire existing wall from, you know, the aluminum siding to wood. But what was replaced was only a few panels, which I'd have to replace with wood. Then you're going to have an inconsistency of metal and wood, where, you know, so it's really going to look awful. If you want me to do it, I'll do it. I have no problem with that. We've found a mill company local that has those wood sidings that I can get. You know, again, but it's going to look 85% metal and 15% wood. And but if that's what you want, then I'll do it. And then lastly, the spindles. I've searched everywhere for, if you look at the example of the spindles, the dimensions are exactly, the height requirement were exact. Architecturally, in between the two, the base and the top, it's a little different. So I'd like to get those approved. I mean, there's a little difference there, so I guess it's just it's your choice if you want me to get those milled and replace them all back to the original, but they're very similar. It took me a little effort to try to find some of those. But
So, I have a question. You said that you read the code. Was that before or after you did the work?
After.
So you read the code after you did the work?
Well, because I went to apply for a roof, and then we started talking about it, and then I was served a couple stop work notices. So then I went down to talk to Christine, and she had pointed out the code.
Okay.
I have a question. Was there a reason that you continued to do the work after the red tag?
Most of the work was pretty much already completed, and then we just finished it. So I just wanted to get it finished, and I knew that it was going to be in front of you guys anyway, and I'd rather just have it completed and present my case or whatever. So I mean, I'm going to do whatever you guys want me to do to get it right. So it doesn't, you know, what happened has happened. Whatever you want me to do to correct it, I'm going to correct it, regardless with what Miss Mary here has to say. So just let me know what you want me to do.
But, I mean, see, and I know that we all have objection, obviously, and I appreciate what you're saying, but it makes it seem like you're being a little blasé about it. I mean, that it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, and unfortunately, that doesn't really work for us.
I understand.
Moving forward with anything, obviously, I think, hopefully, you need to understand that, you know, you're not going to find anybody more knowledgeable and more helpful than Christine.
I know that.
Okay, so before you want to do anything, moving forward with anything in your houses, I would go talk to her first.
Okay.
Because it seems to me as though you wanted to get it done. Well, now you're going to possibly incur, labor and time and materials to replace it the right way, instead of just getting it finished and hopefully that we're going to maybe pass it.
Correct.
But you didn't answer the question she asked is, why did you continue after you were red tagged?
Well, I did answer it because I wanted to finish it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's just a.
Were you given a red tag because of the C of A violations or because you didn't have a building permit?
It was CFA.
And the work that you continued doing, was that C of A work or was that,
CFA.
it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you remove the first red tags?
I didn't remove any.
Somebody
flags.
did, because they were taken down on both buildings. In fact, the one on Palmetto doesn't have one now. And I think you received a second one on 10th Street.
Well, I had asked my person that was there to take them all off because they were scattered all over different
what
windows
does it
to
say?
consolidate them.
What does it say on the red tag? Does it say, do not remove?
I just read stop work order, but that's fine. But yeah, if they're not there, then they're not there.
I'll make a motion to deny the request to obtain a C of A for the alterations completed on the exterior building at 201 East 10th Street based on the finding that the proposed scope of work is not consistent with the purpose and intent of Schedule S and does not comply with the design guidelines in Schedule S.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there anyone else who'd like to discuss this before we vote on it, please?
My name is Ron Masowski. I live at 918 Magnolia, kitty corner to that house on 10th Street. And as far as the work being mostly completed by the time the stop work order was up, is an absolute false. That stop work order has been up for weeks, and there's been workers in and out of there. Weekends, weekdays, it doesn't matter. The thing has been taken down, put back up, taken down, put back up. It's a joke. It is. It's just a farce. I think Linda is correct in saying, you know what, he's just going to do what he needs to do to get by, and that's all he's going to do. I don't think he has any honest attempt to do anything correctly, and it shows in the house, too.
Thank you.
I have one more question.
Please.
I'll come up for the record, so you can clearly get it on the record. Previously, you made a motion to deny. Obviously, you haven't determined what's going to happen on this one. One more question for Mr. Groot. Can there be a timetable put on this other than, okay, he has not received a C of A, he hasn't done the work needs to be removed, now it needs to be replaced with what is approved under Certificate of Appropriateness. Is there a timetable that can be set that he has to have the appropriate work done within 60 days, 90 days?
Not by this board, but he's in violation of...
I understand. So how soon does it become a code violation is my question.
Make a motion.
It's a code violation.
It immediately becomes a code violation.
And it could be pursued as a code violation under various remedies by the city.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that this makes it a code violation, that there's not a timetable that in the meantime, he ends up selling the homes. He has not rectified the C of A issues, and then where does the responsibility fall?
If this motion were to pass, it would establish several things. That the COA was necessary, that the work that was done was not eligible for a C of A, and that the application for that work was denied. All those things together mean that there's a code violation of it.
Okay, but the code violation gets filed, but until he appears in front of the magistrate, it's sort of a limbo. Let's say he sells 310 Palmetto Avenue tomorrow. What happens to this board's action is my question.
Nothing, but the purchaser files a code
But they're not going to know that. And I'm sure he's not going to tell them.
Somebody should, if there's a realtor, they should.
It's Linda.
If there's due diligence, they should know. So I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're right. They could
Will it show up on a
possibly-
title search is what I'm asking. No.
No, but that's a good. But one thing, there is a resolution that should show up on all title searches that this area is a historic preservation district, and that was intended years ago. I think I've been part of that. That was intended years ago so that people would inquire when they were buying houses as to the status of the property, whether there was anything being done on the property or had been done on the property that didn't comply with the S code. That was the goal. I'm not sure it's showing up in every title report, but it should.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because everybody on this board and everyone that's here, clearly, we live in the historic district. We deal with the historic district. We value the historic district. We put the time and effort into making sure that the renovations that are done are appropriate. And to me, it's a real slap in the face when an absentee owner who does not live in the city of Sanford, who lives outside of our district, comes in and does this kind of stuff, and then the nonchalant, oh, well, I wanted to finish the work. A stop work order means stop, that you're doing something inappropriate. Thank you.
I do have a girlfriend that bought a historic home and wasn't made aware of code violations, and she ended up suing the homeowner and won because they're selling it knowing they have violations. So it is illegal to do that.
Disclosure obligations by a realtor, by an owner, and it should show up in the title. So there could even be a title claim if it doesn't show up.
Right.
Yeah. Can I just say one last thing for the record? Is that okay?
Please.
Okay. And the community that's here, the reason why we're here is to get things approved or denied, okay? 201 10th Street was an eyesore before I got to it. I put over $55,000 in the renovation. Doesn't matter. I put $55,000 in the renovation. There's three things that was done wrong. The two windows and the back door and the spindles. That's four things, okay? That's it. We're talking about $1,500. Maybe. Okay, so now I've got to go back and do it. I'm learning. My boys go to All Souls Catholic School. We've been in the community 8 years. You guys live here. That's great. So I'm here to let you know, for the record, whatever you recommend that I need to do to correct it, I will do it. If I get a contract on a house, I will make sure that what needs to happen will happen based on what you're recommending me to do. So please don't make decisions for thinking that I'm not going to do something when I've already spent $55,000 on East 10th and I've already spent $65,000 on Palmetto. Palmetto's going to take me about $1,000 to replace the porch. Okay, we're not talking about $20,000 here. Had I not come along, these things would still be sitting there as an eyesore. Okay, so these things are very easily to be rectified, and I'll do it. So just tell me what to do, and I'll do it. And that's it. And you know what? There's 4 or 5 others in the community that I'm also going to do. So we can come back here again if things aren't going right. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Please.
Persecute. You're fine. Everything's going to work out. Okay.
Alec 1019 Magnolia Avenue. Well, he's going to leave, but anyway, I did speak with Mr. Mason. I believe it was the day or the day after his closing, and I was excited to see that property at 210 was going to be purchased and was going to receive attention, renovation, repairs as needed. He stated he was well aware that this was in the historic district. He was well aware of the requirements of the historic district, said he would abide them as he did in DeLand, as he said he'd done many homes here. And if he hadn't left, I would have told him that what he has done has missed an opportunity. This is a historic district, and it has appeal to a certain homeowner that wants to live in a historic district. Those of us here already do embrace that and do like living here. The value of the homes have since gone up a great deal, not just because of the economy, but because they are in a registered historic district. So he's missed his opportunity on 2 occasions here. He's made no friends within the district because the work has been, I would say, shoddy. and that's my professional opinion, and you can put that on the record. And he has already stated, as he left, that he was going to do more homes. So unfortunately, he left, so he doesn't hear the advice that he's going to be watched very carefully, even more so now. And again, if he wants to capitalize as an investor, do it right and market it to the right the buyers, and he will do well. As far as the amount of money that goes into it, that is of no concern to you or to the residents that live around him. That is his information, and its only importance is to him as an investor. He blew his chance. Sorry.
Thank you.
Maria Shreve, 1118 South Palmetto. I'm curious on some clarification. My understanding is, and Christine, you can help here, if you remove aluminum siding, that you have to redo all facades of the house, not just the facade that you're removing?
No. What the code...
It's just... Okay, sorry.
The code states, and this is from page S29 of the code, it says resurfacing existing historic landmarks or contributing buildings with new material that is inconsistent with the style of the building or was unavailable when the building was constructed, such as artificial stone, brick veneer, asbestos or asphalt shingles, rustic shades, and vinyl or aluminum siding shall be prohibited. In cases where artificial siding is currently in place, its removal is not necessary. An owner may retain the material or remove it. If the material is removed, however, it shall be replaced with historically appropriate material.
Okay, I walk by this home all the time, almost on a daily basis. So all the aluminum, the back siding was fully removed, not just pieces. Mm-hmm. So the south side and the east side would require new clapboard siding. Is that?
So it may be helpful if I show you the image here on the overhead. Sure. So back here,
yes.
This was an original part of the building, but it was a one-story portion. Mm-hmm. And this here was also original. It was a one-story porch. So the removal of the siding was limited to where that one-story piece meets the two-story piece, and the same thing on the east side. So this whole back area was where the siding was removed and replaced with new aluminum siding. The area north of that on both elevations was not touched. So this section of wall here, and on the other side. So basically the area that's limited to the one-story section was where it was removed. So if you read exactly what the code says is, an owner may retain the material or remove it. If the material is removed, however, it shall be replaced with historically appropriate materials. So in this one-story addition is where he should have replaced it with historically appropriate materials. Because the other sections of building were not touched, he can retain it, because the code allows for retention of that. So the two-story sections could be retained. Really, the one-story section should have gone back to what the original would have been.
Okay. Thank you for clarification. And thank you, folks.
Thank you. Anything further? Okay, we had a motion and a second before us. We're going to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, it's unanimous to deny. Let's review the minor reviews and the 6 months at the same time, please. No motion is needed for those guys. If you have any questions, please go ahead and you can ask Christine. Christine, we can hand out the code enforcement
Okay.
stuff while they're looking it over here. If they have any questions, I'll ask. But
Oh, yeah, did you miss that part of the agenda?
well, I was just the extensions. I guess we were. If anybody that's on the agenda, if you wanted to talk about it, you can. If they had any questions, they're gonna.
Yeah, I just wanted to say we have 2 extension requests, and I'm just going to go ahead and read them. On April 15, 2015, the Historic Preservation Board approved the request for a 500-square-foot addition at 1301 South Park Avenue and a 700-square-foot addition at 1307 Park Avenue based on a finding that the proposed alterations are consistent with the purpose and intent of Schedule S and complies with the specific design guidelines contained within Schedule S. The approval for this item expired on October 15, 2015, and the applicant is seeking an extension to the previously granted approval. And I do have the file, so if any of you don't remember what was approved at that time, I could pass around the file for your review. And the second item is on May 20th, 2014, the Historic Preservation Board approved the request to replace a shingle roof with a metal roof at 911 South Magnolia Avenue based on the finding that the proposed change is consistent with the purpose and intent of Schedule S and complies with the specific design guidelines contained within Schedule S. And the approval for this expired on September 20th, 2014, and this applicant is seeking an extension to the previously granted approval. And again, I have the file on that if you'd like to see it.
And can those be administratively extended, or do we have to extend them?
No, they were board approvals, so the board would have to grant the extension.
So if anyone wants to make a motion on each extension.
I'll make a motion to approve both extension requests as outlined in the agenda.
Is that good enough, Lonnie? Lonnie, is that good enough? Do we need to, should we define that a bit more? Is that good enough? That's probably.
I'm sorry.
You're reading something else. Just, hey, Hank, why don't you just go ahead and revise that and just
Made a motion
the addresses
to
for both the
dismiss
addresses.
the attorney of...
Okay, got it. Just make it, when you make your motion, just to cite the addresses for both the extensions. That'll help.
I make a motion to approve the extensions for 1301 South Park Avenue
7.
and 1307 South Park Avenue and 911 South Magnolia Avenue, as outlined in our agenda.
Yeah, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'm sorry. Did you say 1307?
Be correct.
I did.
Is it 1301 or 1307?
Both.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Both extensions passed. Thank you.
And Mary, did you already pass out the code enforcement report? Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sticker every time.
My goodness.
I noticed 201 East 10th Street's on our list. And it says hearing is January 2016.
Just right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
That for something else, obviously.
No, the notice of violation was issued for doing work without a certificate of appropriateness.
Okay. So he's on the docket for January. That's quick.
Yeah.
What about the Palmetto one? Is he on the docket for that also?
310 South Palmetto right here. Hearing January 2016. Yeah.
10.
3/4 of the way down almost. A little bit further. 310 South Palmetto Avenue.
Oh, yeah.
She's got 2 violations.
So he didn't.
Work without a building permit or
Yeah.
certificate of appropriateness.
So he didn't have a building permit either, but he had it on the 210 10th Street. Maybe he's not used to our customs here in Sanford.
Yeah, it's 201 East Sanford, is required maintenance, Hank.
Yeah, that's the violation, C of A.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Required maintenance.
No, I just asked Christine, and
Oh.
she said that was...
But yeah, but right here it's listed as required maintenance.
I know.
What is the status of 218 East First Street pending legal review by city attorney? The plywood?
I was asked to give a legal opinion, and I rendered the legal opinion, and it's my opinion that the code is ambiguous and that the violation is not asserted is not well-founded. That's the legal opinion that has been issued.
So the plywood in the doorway is legal?
In our opinion.
But didn't you say before that plywood is temporary?
I may have it, I don't recall that conversation, but given the facts of this case, I was asked for a legal opinion, researched the law, looked at the property, researched the Schedule S. In our opinion, it is not a violation of the S Code because of the ambiguity that's within the S Code as to whether this is internal or external.
Yeah, that's what I was going to make. The ambiguity is whether that is an exterior or interior.
I can see it from the
Well,
outside.
again, Lonnie, I'm just citing your opinion, obviously not mine, but or your legal opinion is Mr. Groot's opinion is the law is very ambiguous as to how if this applies to as an exterior or an interior. So in his opinion, he doesn't feel that the violation would have merit if and I maybe don't want to put words in your mouth, but
let me say it in a different way. Oftentimes the fact that a question's asked about a land development regulation means it's ambiguous. I'm not saying that's the case in this situation, but I do think it's ambiguous. But whenever there's ambiguity, the property owner wins. Codes are to be clear, codes are to be demonstrably clear, and if there's any ambiguity whatsoever, the property owner wins. The legislative body can always change the code to make it clear. And that's why, in my opinion later on, I do say, that's why legislatures meet every year to fix codes. And I think periodically y'all might want to, look at the S Code
make it clear.
and suggest amendments.
But where's the ambiguity? Is the ambiguity in the fact that we're not sure that it's an exterior door or an interior door? Is that the ambiguity?
That's it.
So the S Code's not ambiguous.
Sir, it's in my opinion. The definition of exterior or interior, the code that says specifically that the board shall not consider the interior arrangements of structures.
Well,
if you look at other codes, and I looked at codes all over the place. You look at the New York Code, New York City Code, interior stair is a stair within a building that serves as a required exit. That stairway serves as a required exit. It's recessed. It's ambiguous in my judgment. I mean,
so the ambiguity is...
Free to disagree.
No, I mean, ambiguity is the fact that we can't decide whether that is an exterior entrance or an interior entrance, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So it looks like an exterior.
May
But
look like it.
if it's an exit to a building, is there a fire code problem if you've got a exit boarded up?
In my mind, because I mentioned that at the end too. The fact that it's a metal gate with the plywood behind it. If that's
built for egress,
ingress and egress, there may be some fire safety issues there. But and I raised that in my opinion. I didn't go that far because it's not my call. But the fire marshal may want to look at that. I don't know.
Okay.
That's your point's well taken.
I always thought the door that opened out to the outside was exterior. That's what I thought.
Look at the New York Code and
We don't live in New York.
the definition of interior stair is a stair within a building that serves as a required exit. That serves as a required exit. That's the way, as I understand the structure, that's the way you get out of the second floor. That's the main exit, it's the main entrance.
Well, I could understand if the door's at the top of the stairs, but coming down, you open up that door and you're outside. And I don't care what New York says.
Well, but well, I understand. I typically don't care what New York says either. I'm a Southern boy. But that's the point. If we can debate this, the property owner wins. It's that simple.
Well, let's not debate it then.
Well, that's always an option. Just take it to the special magistrate and let
see what he
the debate
says.
occur there. I was asked for an opinion. I got my opinion.
What's the reason for the plywood?
What's the reason for what?
The plywood. I'm just like
Security.
confused.
Security.
For what?
People are climbing over the metal gate.
Yeah, nobody gets into the second floor.
Can we take something to the magistrate?
Well, you can certainly. Can you take that? You can. Well, there is a case pending.
Yeah.
Not a case. There's a notice of violation pending.
But that'll go on for another
Presley,
6 months.
Mr. Presley can take this case to the special magistrate. I can tell you now, I know what I would do if I was the property owner. I know the first thing I would introduce.
Don't put it on record.
Was legal opinion, and so, yes, this can still be presented to the special magistrate. The special magistrate can still find the violation because I'm just an attorney. I have an opinion. I think I'm right, but it's an opinion. But another option on the special magistrate would be an inquiry, as you mentioned, into the life safety or fire code issues, because that's, once again, intuitively, it seems to me that is a point of ingress and egress, and you have the metal gate locked, and there was a lock, and you have fire, and you have plywood, which is intended to keep human beings from not traversing it, that could present an issue if there was a fire upstairs.
Is that the only entrance to the upstairs? Do we know?
I don't know. I think there is. That is the main.
But that doesn't make,
Well, if she's going to argue that because of the plywood and it's locked, that no one's going to be in there, it's not going to be a safety issue.
That typically is very unpersuasive to a fire marshal because
people can get in.
What a fire marshal will tell you is that their job is to protect squatters, trespassers, and everybody else too.
Well, then you have mothballed buildings. They're all boarded up. You could argue the case that you can't board up the doors on mothballed buildings.
I think that, believe it or not, I think there's actually standards about that a human being can knock the boards out and stuff like that, so that there is some element of safety planned into a boarded up building. That's the way I understand it.
Yes, that's why Schedule S has a whole section that deals with mothballing. And, I mean, there you have it. If the fire marshal says, no, it's got to be properly mothballed, and she applies for a mothballing, well, she's applying for a mothballing to HPB after she's already stated that's the interior and it shouldn't go before HPB. So that's a conflict right there. I don't know.
So we should let it run its course if it's on the docket.
You can also go to their the hearing and speak at the hearing, obviously, and make
Are
that
we
point.
allowed to speak at the hearing?
Individually, as a citizen, absolutely.
It's not a public. I'm a special magistrate for Seminole County, and I would make it clear these are not public hearings.
Yeah.
But if the city calls you as a witness, then you're a witness. And I've often said, ma'am, you can't talk, but if the county calls you as a witness, and Mr. County, are you going to call this lady as a witness? They're not going to say no, typically. So it sort of works out that way. But one thing I would seriously recommend, and I don't mean to push you in any particular direction, but a periodic review of Schedule S there was an intent, there was an original intent, and there's an intent now in 2015. Okay, and I bet you that if you compare the original intent to your intent, there'd be some differences. And you've seen through experience where there's some issues, some words, a periodic review and proposed changes to the city commission on the S code, I think would be highly advisable and very satisfactory to y'all.
Because there are a number of issues that have come up.
Sure.
So if a change is made in Schedule S or something, then would they be grandfathered in, or would they have to remove?
It depends, I mean, I don't want to sound too, funky lawyerly, but it really depends upon how it's written. You could write it so that it's more of a police power as opposed to a zoning issue. And you could talk about appearance. Plywood's temporary. So there's some point in time where it'll have to be replaced. You're not grandfathered for the replacement, so there's ways to get there. There's always ways to get there.
No.
Except now. Any other questions on the code enforcement? Okay.
The building on the corner of Palmetto, the Bishop Building, what's happening with the canopy? I mean, I know it's got a bunch of pillars holding it up. Are they redoing it? What?
They received approval for shoring up the canopy.
Right.
As to allow for their engineer to come in and do an assessment. And as of last month's meeting, the building department was working with the engineer on that assessment, but they've never submitted anything in that since then.
So how long can that go on? There's no time limit?
The building permit for the shoring is valid for 6 months.
And how long has it been there? About 6 weeks?
Probably
6 weeks.
a little under 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happens in 6 months?
Well,
4th of July.
You get an extension.
it's a code violation. It has been a code violation. So, I mean, they're in a position where they're going to be fined if they don't do the repairs. But that's why I wouldn't sign off on it, because when they submitted for the building permit, the wording on the building permit application was repair of canopy. But the only thing they submitted was the shoring. Well, to me, column shoring up a canopy is not a repair. And I called the engineer and I asked, am I missing a document from this permit package? And the engineer told me, this is what we're proposing as the permanent solution, because this is all the property owner wants to do for a permanent solution, and I would not sign off on it.
That makes sense.
Who signed off on it?
Nobody.
We had a meeting with Tom George, Dave Aldrich, Russ, and ultimately I think Russ signed off on it.
Okay.
Signed off on what?
As a permanent or
The
as temporary?
shoring, for the shoring.
As temporary, though.
I have not seen what was signed off on. I don't know if they amended their application and wrote temporary. I don't know. I haven't seen
Then obviously that means we
Can we see
prepare
a
that for us.
Can we
or-
see a copy
a
of that?
copy of the
Yeah,
shoring
please.
picture.
And I'd like to state again for the record this month, it's dangerous having that awning like that. Pieces of wood are falling off of it onto the sidewalk. It's shored up against the building, but the boards that are going out to the end are rotten. So there's no support at the end of the awning.
Bonnie, what happens if a resident is walking down that sidewalk, which is owned by the city, and something falls on a resident? Who gets sued?
City.
Well, the city always gets sued. And whenever something happens on the owner of premises always gets sued because of the premises liability doctrine.
Right.
Yeah, it's our sidewalk. I'm sure this claim will come against the city in addition to the
Building owner.
causing force, and but the city will be named. There's no doubt about that. We get named for everything that we're remotely involved in.
Deep pockets.
So how soon can we have a copy of that, Christine? Like,
I can see if it can be pulled tomorrow, and I could see if it can that be emailed, Bonnie?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, tomorrow.
okay.
I know. Go ahead, Linda, I guess.
I have a question.
Sure.
Mr. Hurt.
Well-
I'm hearing from, you miss. I'm hearing from Christine that something has been signed off on by Mr. Gibson. It really is non-compliant with the C of A.
No.
Okay?
We don't know that.
It doesn't comply with Schedule S.
We don't know that, Linda.
No, what I said, let me just to clarify, what I said was the property owner submitted for a building permit to repair the awning. And in their permit package, the only thing they had was a drawing for shoring. So I picked up the phone and I called the engineer and I said, I'm missing the paperwork, the drawing for your repair. I only see the drawing for your shoring. And the engineer responded that that is what the owner is proposing as the repair. And I said, this is not a repair, this is shoring. It's not considered a permanent repair. It's not in compliance with Schedule S. You have to submit something else. So I held the permit. I would not sign off on the permit. Well, apparently the property owner came to the city, was very upset that the permit had been held for months and months and months, and cited that it was a safety issue and that it was the city staff who was preventing a safe condition from happening. So we had a meeting about this, and I advised everyone why I wouldn't sign off on it. So I haven't seen what was signed off on, but I think they may have amended the application to state that it was a temporary shoring. So if it was signed off on as a temporary shoring, that was valid. I just wouldn't sign off on it stating that that was a permanent repair. Does that make sense now?
Yeah, that's a little more clear, because what I was hearing you say is that Mr. Gibson signed off on something.
I wouldn't sign off on it after that point. So that's why I said I never saw what was ultimately signed off on, because I wouldn't sign off on it. Knowing what the engineer had told me about the property owner's intent, I wouldn't sign off on it.
So you don't know if it's stated in there that it's a temporary or a permanent?
No, I don't know.
You don't know what was signed off?
I haven't seen what was signed off.
We'll get a copy of that.
Could you send me a copy? Lonnie, can I send it to the
Public record.
Public record. It's easier to do it that way.
You want to move to staff reports? Or
Sure. The first thing that I wanted to say was that unfortunately I was sick during the home tour and I was so sad to miss it. I heard that it was awesome and I saw the pictures online and I was really bummed, and I know that Tammy worked really hard on it. So I was so disappointed. There were a couple of houses I really, really wanted to see. So totally bummed, but congratulations, because people are talking about it ever since the tour. So it's been a couple of weeks now. So that was really excited. So I just definitely wanted to say kudos to Tammy. I was sick in bed, and Saturday was my worst day of it, and I totally lost my voice, and so it wasn't happening. The second item that I wanted to say is today we submitted a application to Urban Land Institute for a Trendsetter Award for the Sanford Avenue Streetscape. So I hope that we get chosen. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about was the City Commission meeting on Monday. The City Commission chose the developer for the waterfront catalyst site. And so if you all have not heard the news, they chose the town planning firm of Dover Cole, the architecture firm of Richard J. Heisenbottle, and the contractor is Torrey Development out of Miami. Just a side note, I have known Richard Heisenbottle, the architect, for a number of years, probably around 8 years or so. I met him at a preservation conference. He is a restoration architect, so he does do new construction, but his primary focus is restoration. So that comes through in his designs. If you're curious about his firm, I would recommend that you go to his website. He's done the restoration of Vizcaya, Miami's Freedom Tower, etc. So some really significant landmark projects in the state of Florida, but also statewide. And Dover Cole and Associates, out of all of you here who would probably be familiar with this firm, is probably Hank, because Hank is really interested in the new urbanism. And you all have heard of Duany Plater Zyberk, Andres Duany's firm. Well, Victor Dover and Cole, they are pretty much, they were right there with the creation of the new urbanism and the charter of the new urbanism. So they're founders of the new urbanism movement. So I think it bodes well. Hopefully they come up with something really wonderful for the site. But they're a very context-sensitive design firm. And again, you should go to the website and see what they've got there. And then lastly, the developer, Vinnie Torrey, is actually the chairman of the Coral Gables Historic Preservation Board. So I'm really pleased. I'm very excited about it. So I wanted to share that with you all.
Good.
And if you all haven't gotten the latest issue of My Sanford, I have copies here.
From the river to Palmetto, correct? That site.
Right.
Very-
Part of it is in the historic district, and part of it is outside of the district.
Right, just the one plot, basically
Right,
a parking lot is
yeah.
inside.
So
Yeah.
will they have to come in front of us at all for the section that's in the district?
Of course.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because before we weren't privy
Well,
to
that's-
any of
that- we're not, we try not to have that happen again.
So.
They're supposed to.
I have a question I forgot to ask during code violations. Has a violation been issued to the drawing on Sanford Avenue?
Drawing.
A painting? Excuse me, painting?
I haven't been by the site yet. I know you told me about that yesterday. I have not been by the site yet, and I don't know if Monica's been by there, so I'm not sure if the violation was issued yet.
Marley's on the side of the building, next to
Speak in the microphone. Oh.
two-story building. Yeah. Drive by on your way.
Speak in the microphone so we can hear.
Sorry.
That's okay.
No, I
If you're
just had a
discussing it,
question
that's
about
fine.
that because I realize that building is in the historic district.
First and Second Street, yeah.
Yeah, and it's 2 stories high.
Yeah.
I will have code enforcement
Painting,
look at
yeah.
that tomorrow.
They're done on the
2
weekend.
stories.
Few stories.
Probably.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. This one thing I want to kind of go over, and I'll let you guys. Is you guys want to talk a little bit more before we adjourn? Because this is something I'm going to kind of address to everybody. If you want, then you're more than welcome to. I'm sorry. No. I just didn't know if you wanted to before I discussed. Okay. Basically, first, I want to be sensitive here. I want to first start off and say I want to thank every board member for their service, the volunteer aspect and the time that you take out of your family